Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is, Monday. It is the 8th of December. We have a new week and this video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. So let's start looking at what has happened Friday and what has happened this early morning in the Asian session. Let's start with Friday. It was a fairly quiet day. We were up a little bit, about 0.4%, 0.3% on the US markets. The semiconductor index, or the ETF, as is illustrated here, spiked to new all-time high, but it didn't close. Did it also close slightly higher, but a little bit of spike up there, as we can see here on the STOXX ETF. But it wasn't helped much by Nvidia, that was actually a little bit down 0.5%. So it is some of the other semiconductors that are kind of running the show at the moment. Some of them were up 4 or 5%, others were a little bit lower, but in general it seems like it's not really Nvidia that is running the show at the moment. It is the smaller ones, compared to Nvidia at least, that are doing really well. I'm not gonna mention anyone in particular because this is not about advice or anything, but let me just mention one. You see Micron was up about 4.5% almost. So some of them are doing good, but others are a little bit depressed. On other sectors, we had the rare earth materials that were doing fairly well last week, and then the copper miners, of course, because copper is pushing higher in general. And the general US market, Nasdaq 100, closed just a few dollars above the resistance here at 25,663. RSI still not above 60 threshold, but we have a bullish trend. Just need confirmation by the RSI, and then we could see it pushing higher towards the year end. So it seems like the little bit of a sense of rally, not rally, but still a little bit bullish rally towards the Christmas and year end is in session. It seems at the moment at least. Pre-market also crawling a little bit higher, so I think we will see RSI on the cash index pushing above 60 threshold today. The S&P 500 closed just after spiking above its resistance there at 6,870. However, the RSI did not close above 60 threshold, just 59.79 there, so it's also on a knife edge at the moment. But pre-market we are crawling a little bit higher, so let's see if it will crawl higher today in the normal session. The small caps in US were a little bit lower, but still in a fairly bullish trend. The Hang Seng in the this morning, it's really struggling. 1% lower here, below the 100 moving average. We have negative sentiment, and it needs to get back about 26,264 to establish a bullish trend here above the cloud and above the 55 moving average. I think if we take out the lows there from last week at 25,649, sell-off could be accelerated down to the 25,145 support area here, possibly lower. So that it doesn't look good too good for Hang Seng. The Nikkei just below the 61.8 retracement there at 50,913. Still positive sentiment, but as you can see, we have divergence on the RSI. And if you're a newcomer to my video here, I have a lot of newcomers to my video here. Well, then you can see that the RSI is declining. Market have moved higher. That's called divergence or imbalance in the strength indicator. So it's a sign of its uptrend exhaustion. We need the RSI to get back above 60 threshold, but definitely also back above the falling trend line. You can draw trend lines on the indicators such as RSI2. So a little bit cautious here, but I think if it takes up the spike there, 51,055 from last week, then I think we will see uptrend resuming and pushing higher. EuroStoxx50 spiked a little bit higher Friday there to the 786 retracement there at 5,744.5. Pre-market basically unchanged. but we are in a bullish trend. We are in a confirmed bullish trend here with the RSI back above 60 threshold. But it is slightly being rejected at the falling trend line. You will see we have divergence here on the RSI, so a little bit cautious. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a setback today, but we are above the cloud. We are above 55 moving average, so we are in a bullish trend. It's still positive sentiment, but there is some warning signs with the divergence or the declining RSI values there. But as you can see here, pre-market basically unchanged. DAX had a fairly good day Friday. Spiked into the cloud, but closed just at the lower part of it. If it can close back above, well, then we could have a bullish trend establishment, and we could have the RSI back above 60 threshold, and that would be quite bullish for the DAX index. So keep an eye on this the next few days. Pre-market basically unchanged. You can see how pre-market is trading just around the lower part of the cloud there. RSI is still below the 60 threshold, and here we are actually in a negative sentiment still, despite the fact that it actually established a little bit of a counter trend there, higher high, higher low, and higher high. On the FX market, we have euro dollar. It's hovering around these 116.55 resistance here. It did close above, then back below, and now it's trying to get back above. I think it will continue crawling slowly higher given that the RSI is in a positive sentiment because it has lately been above 60 threshold, and it won't go into negative sentiment until it goes back below 40 threshold. So for now, it seems fairly strong, or at least bullish. We just need a little bit more mojo. It needs no mojo getting back together here, and then it can crawl above the cloud, and then we have 1730 resistance. So a weaker dollar, it seems, in the horizon. But again, if it takes out 115.5 down here, well, then we could see sliding back below 115. Sterling dollar. A bit messy here, I know. We have the a correction move up to the 786 correction here at 133. 70.75 spiked above, got rejected there, and got rejected at the 100 moving average. Now setting back a little bit. But positive sentiment on the RSI, bullish trend. You can see higher high, high low, and so on, and higher high there. So a little bit of a setback. If it takes out the spike up there at 133.85, then we are up here in the region around 135 and a quarter. As long as we stay above 130.160. Euro sterling open lower this morning, just above the 100 moving average, and just in the cloud did just the lower part of it. RSI bounced off the 40 threshold, so still bullish or positive sentiment, but we are in a bearish corrective trend there. We can draw trend lines here on the RSIs just as well. So if RSI moves back above its falling trend line, it could be a sign that we will see euro sterling resuming uptrend, but it's not confirmed until it moves back above 88. If it takes out the lows from today, then we can see a push down to around 86.55. Yen pairs, there's a little bit not much move here, at least not in dollar yen. Once again, trying to get below the 154.60 level here at the 38.2 retracement of this uptrend there. It didn't do that, so it can still bounce, and you can see there is still positive sentiment on the RSI, and you can see here that the rising trend line is actually indicating there's no divergence. It's not imbalance in the market, meaning it is indicating higher dollar yen levels here eventually. And what I would do if I was a very short-term trader, I'm not, at least not on the FX market. You can add a Fibonacci to this sell-off there, or sell-off this sliding lower there. And you can see some levels there, maybe could be some resistance if it's a correction levels, if it starts crawling higher again. However, I think if it takes out the lows here from Friday at 154.30, well, then we are looking maybe at 152.80, but then we have the 55 moving average coming up there. Euro yen sideways basically between 182 and 179.70, 75. That is the range it needs to break out of. And also here, there is positive sentiment. There's no divergency. This peak here on the RSI values is also the peak here on the actual price graph. That indicates that it's we could see higher levels on Euro Yen, but I need confirmation. 182 needs to break out of. Also Yen crawling higher, slowly crawling higher, forming this possibly rising wedge like pattern, but it's challenging the upper rising trend line there. RSI has broken back above the falling trend line, indicating we could now crawl higher, and it has certainly done so, despite the fact that we do have in overall declining RSI values. So there is divergence, but again, trust the trend for now. The sterling yen coming up here, also basically sideways with a slightly bullish undertone. 207.35, it takes it out, and we're looking 208, and then we have to go really far back. Last year, let's see, 208 and a bit, 208.10. I think we'll reach that level, slowly crawling higher as long as it stay above 205.19. So I'll say 209, 205.15, always really take away a little bit to the downside. Also here, there is actually divergence. You can see the peaks here are actually declining where the market moved higher, so that's a sign of a trend exhaustion, and I think we're close to, but we could see it crawling a little bit higher before that maybe plays out that scenario. Aussie dollar above resistance at 66.30, and there's no divergence on the positive side, indicating likely higher levels on Aussie dollar, and there's room up short term to around 67, the previous peak here from September. Of course, there can be some corrections, but after breaking this falling trend line above the cloud and everything, then we are pointing to higher levels. Dollar Canada, massive sell-off there Friday. I'm not quite sure what triggered it. I haven't followed the news. I've been away. So I took out the declining 200 moving average, took out the 100, and also the minor support down here at 138.87, and continue lower. There's not really much stopping it until around 137.20 down here. Negative sentiment on the RSI. No divergence, as we can see. So it is definitely a downtrend. Also lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and lower low. So it seems like it's really in a bearish trend there for now. So turned around this bullish trend over the past couple of months for sure. Sterling Canada also affected, of course, with the Canada move, and it was rejected up here at the 50% and the cloud area, where it's kind of, it did close above here, so it actually, we will have a bullish trend, but RSI wasn't confirming it. It was rejected at the 60 threshold. So, and now it's back below the rising trend line there, indicating likely lower levels. And if it takes out the lows today, then this stronger support down here at around 183.25 could really come under pressure and possibly also be taken out with a push down to around 182 support level here in the cards. Euro Swiss, slowly crawling higher, and I think we will see it at the 93.85, possibly 94. We can also, these spikes there, so we are just around 94. I think we will see that in the coming days, possibly. Positive sentiment, currently no divergence, indicating likely higher levels. We are higher high, higher low, higher high, and there is room higher. There's even room up to around 94 and a half level, these levels up here. Moving on to the dollar Swiss. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see what's actually going on. That bounced off the 50% correction of this uptrend there. I would have expected down to the 61.8, but it didn't. And now it's with a bullish engulfing candle here, taking out the bearish candle there. So I think we'll see it bouncing higher. But as long as it stays above the lows here at 79.90. If they take them out, well, then we could be back below the cloud area here, and the 79.60 level here, and that downtrend could come into play. Dollar index still hovering around these 98.87 and the 55 moving average. So which way will it want to go? That will be the key here the next few days. RSI flirting with the 40 threshold. Can it bounce? If it starts bouncing, if it was me, I say, all right, where could we have some levels that it could bounce to? Well, at least 99.34 to 38.2 retracement, possibly up to 99.73. However, the 200 moving average is still weighing on it to the downside, so a little bit there also. Not clear direction, but we had this bullish trend here, but it was cancelled with this close below 98.87. So let's see where it wants to go. If it starts taking out the lows at 98.72, well, then we're looking at 98.35, possibly down here around 98 and 97.80. Gold seems like can't really make up its mind after breaking the falling trend line there in this triangle-like pattern. It's not the most beautiful one because we have a lot of white space there, but nevertheless, it did break out. Pushed to test this little peak there. Tried to get away from a couple of times, got knocked down. However, positive sentiment on the RSI indicating likely higher levels. So if it takes out these peaks here from the past week or so at 4,265, then we are looking at 4,400. But it seems like it's just trying to gather strength to push up there. But it's not uncommon that after a break of the falling trend line, we see the asset or the instrument testing it from the upper side, and it was very close to do that there with the setback. Silver, a little bit stressed, and you can see RSI declining, a little bit stressed here. However, I think it will crawl above 60 threshold or $60, sorry, and it's maybe that's a little bit of fear of how you can see extremely stressed here on the weekly. Very bubble scenario, but I think we could push higher. There's also divergence building up here on the weekly. You see these values there are lower than here, so the strength isn't following. So it's in exhaustion mode, but again, it can be in exhaustion mode for quite some time, still crawl higher. So let's see about that. If it takes out the little low we had here a few days ago, I actually did expect a larger correction before the next move higher, but here at 56.40, well, then we are looking around 55 and a quarter, possibly lower. These supports there 54.47. Platinum, not much to talk about. It's still the peak there 17.34. That is key. Copper crawling higher slowly but surely, seems to crawl higher. Positive sentiment on the RSI indicating likely higher levels, and I think we will reach this 786 retracement there at 561 in a not so distant future. We have a little bit of bounce in the crude oils. Here it's the WTI spiked just above the 55 moving average and up to the 61.8 retracement at 60.49 of this little bearish move here. I think we will see it setting back, but if it starts taking out, well, then we are looking at 61.42 and eventually 62.59 up there, stronger resistance. So there are some resistance levels to watch out for, or will it be rejected? The Brent crude oil up to the 50% retracement, just below the 55 moving, and could try to test it, and possibly also up to 64.80, the 61.8 retracement there. But we are still in a bearish trend. European nat gas seems to be forming a little bit of a bottom reversal pattern there. So if you're trading this, I'm definitely not, but if you're trading this, the last leg down there, we could see a correction up to possibly 28.78. Let's remove this one there. It could be in the cards. But if it takes out this 26.80, then we're looking at 25, possibly lower. US nat gas pushed higher over the past few days, and especially Friday, spiked higher above or just up to 550. But in the bigger picture, we had here 2 years ago where it was much higher, but we are into the fast area, so there's risk higher and positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence on the weekly indicating higher levels, and also here on the daily you can see RSI closed above this peak there, so there is actually potential higher but extreme volatile, so be careful out there if you're trading it. The US 10-year Treasury yields that has bounced up to 4.15 above the 786 retracement there. And let's just adjust this also. We are in a bearish trend, but it seems to be turning the tide maybe a little bit, because this low here was higher than this one. Again, if it takes out these peaks up here, and especially 420 is really key for the US 10-year. If it takes out that, well, then there we are looking at much higher levels. And on the European yields, we have the Euro 10-year above 280 up to 283, that little spike up here, positive sentiment indicating higher levels, and we could see the 2-year pushing all the way up to, and we will not be happy about that here in Europe, at 294. UK bouncing also, but not that much, not much to talk about, but it will probably also crawl higher, but still depressed here down. But what is interesting is in Japan, almost 2%, just 195 this morning here, just below a bullish, very strong bullish trend, and RSI pointing to higher levels. I think we'll see it 2% being reached fairly soon. On the Bitcoin side, Bitcoin trying to slowly crawl higher. It did establish a bullish trend. It's just about, can it keep up? That is the key here at the moment. And what I would do if I was trading this, there we are. We have slightly, we have a rising trend line. If it takes it out, and if a RSI moves back below 40 threshold, downtrend could resume. Ethereum rejected there at 38.2 retracement at 3,244. Needs to take out to establish a bullish trend. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day. Be careful out there, and talk to you again tomorrow.